All right, guys, in today's video, we're going to install one of the most important components that I've installed on my RZR Turbo, and that is the TPR breather system. All right, guys, so what is the TPR breather system? Why is it so important for our car? Why is it one of the best upgrades I've made? Well, let me tell you why. RZR Turbo cars are known for consuming oil. It was to a point where I thought I might even need an engine rebuild or a fresh top end on my car, because I would go run it for a day, I'd come back and look, and my oil was very low, a lot of consumption. So the reason that happens is there is a lot of crankcase pressure in this motor design. And in the turbos, it pushes that oil back up through the intake, and it ends up going through the turbine and getting re-ingested back into the motor and burned up. So you're burning this oil not because it's coming through the rings, but again, it's just all the pressure pushing through the turbo system and the intake. So what the breather system does that TPR designed is to stop that from happening. It eliminates the crankcase pressure from going back through the intake. It reroutes it through their own really cool catch can breather design. And in that can, what it's going to do, it's going to separate the contaminant stuff like any waters or fuels that made its way through with the oil. And then the oil is going to work its way back into the crankcase. So you don't lose that oil, which is awesome. This allows you to run the car with peace of mind that you're not burning oil out of the car, running it down and ruining bearings and destroying the motor. This oil consumption is one of the #1 reasons the RZR Turbo cars end up needing a motor rebuild. We're first going to install the actual breather can itself, which is relatively easy. And then we're going to go in and remove this specific aluminum block that sits on the motor. This is going to be replaced with our new oil return line. And I'm going to show you how we do this again, step by step, and show you how easy it is. And again, this is a great upgrade to make sure you've got peace of mind, your car is not burning through that oil, and it's going to last a long time. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so I went ahead and mounted the canister just because it's kind of the easiest thing to do of this, just because it's just all accessible right here. I have it mocked up with one of the fittings on here, again, just to kind of get a gauge on where everything's going to lay out. The other one's going to come right in here. Now, what we got to do here is this line right here is the breather line. That is going into this little aluminum block that is bolted into the front of the crankcase. That is what we're going to remove and replace it with our nice billet block, which then is going to run the line that's going to go to our canister on this side. I'm sorry, on this side right here, it's going to go to the canister. This is going to be our oil return. And then we're also going to be running from the oil fill port. Now, it is right back there, just down below the oil filter. I sprayed a bunch of contact cleaner in there because I'm trying to clean it out a bit, to make, because it gets pretty grimy in there. And I'll show you some other angles. It's really hard to see, but it's right down there. If you see where that hose is heading, down underneath the oil filter, and that that rod right there. Here's the other side, which this is your oil dipstick. This is bolting to that aluminum block that we're going to remove. It's right down there. It's right where that line ends. Really hard to see, but it's right back in here. So this is from inside the car. There's the access port I took out, and it's right down. It's, again, so hard to see, but that's it right there. So where you see the kind of the shinier right in the center, right there, that's what we're removing. So you can see where the oil dipstick tube mounts to it. There's about 4 bolts that hold it on. So we're gonna unbolt that little aluminum block off there. Okay, so we got it off. I don't know if the time lapse even helped you. It's really hard to see down in there, but this is it. See how dirty it is? Really important to try to clean that off with the contact cleaner to get this thing out. I also took the entire hose. I took the hose out with me because we're going to be capping this off anyway, and it made it easier to get the whole thing out. You can see there was like fragments of belt all attached to it from a blown belt in the past. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the oil dipstick tube because that gets reinstalled on this guy. We are also going to remove the gasket. Now, Greg from TPR gave me a tip because this gasket is going to be used right here on this new beautiful hunk of metal. So what he did recommend that we do is take the gasket out carefully and then clean it with some Simple Green to get all the oil off of it. If not, it won't want to stay placed in the new one. And it is tricky getting everything in and out of there. So this is the time to take that off. We're going to get this new guy installed. We have brand new ARP bolts that came with it, which is great. So we're going to get this guy installed, and that way we can start running lines. And that's pretty much it. So the hardest part is kind of swapping these two, which is not really hard. It's only 4 bolts. It's just a matter of getting to it. It is a tight little area, but we managed to do it. So let's trek forward. All right, so we have our gasket in a little Simple Green and water bath for a couple minutes here. I've taken off this guy here. So the key now is we're just going to tap this with a little mallet very carefully to get it to come loose, and it should come right out, and then we can reinstall it on the new one. Okay, so we've got our gasket, O-ring, whatever you want to call it, installed in the new one. You got to press it in there nice and tight. And be very careful it doesn't fall off and get misaligned as you're trying to get this back up in there. Now I'm leaving everything off. I think it's going to be easier to get it started with these parts off, and then I can install the dipstick ring, the end fitting, and all that stuff once it gets on there. So now we're going to reinstall this guy back onto the crankcase. Okay, so got that guy bolted in down in there, locked tight, all the screws, oil dipstick is back in place. So right there, you can see that shiny black end fitting. So here's our hose. So I just warmed up the tube, slide it right on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna attach this guy right there, and then it's gonna come right around and right through here. You can see it right there. So just like this, that's how it's gonna go. And then that's gonna go right into this guy up here. So that is gonna be our oil return. So it's gonna go back into the crankcase. Okay, so we got the return line on. Got a little scratched up, tightening it up, but it is right down into there. So that guy is perfect, nice and snug. Went under the fuel lines, seemed like it was the right thing to do. I think above them, it would have kind of put some stress on them, but they're sitting there. Oh, I can't really tell, sorry. Nice and loose, they're okay. So now we just have to attach here the breather line, which is now going to go to our oil fill cap. So we're going to replace the oil fill cap. And then the last thing we have to do is right there. We got to cap this guy off because that was the old breather line. We're capping that guy off and getting that out of here. So let's get the breather line run, get that capped off. We can fire it up, make sure there's no leaks. Okay, so for capping off the old breather line, I just cut off the very end of this long hose. So this is going to go back on that J-tube. And then TPR gives you this really nice aluminum plug that goes right in. with a hose clamp. So we'll hose clamp this guy here, hose clamp this back onto the J-tube, and that will now be capped off. Okay, so we have installed our plug, which is right there. There's the hose that we removed. So remember, that hose ran all the way back down there to where that little aluminum block was that we removed. So we've capped it off. So we're plugged there and good to go. All right, I think we got it. So I'm going to show you how I ran the line from the vent cap or oil fill cap down to the breather. Okay, so they give you a couple options. I use this particular fitting so it could wrap around the ignition. Now all this is going to change for me because we've got the TPR aluminum, billet aluminum valve cover, which we're going to be switching to, and the stick ignition or coil ignition type. So we're going to be replacing all this ignition here pretty soon. But this is nice and sealed and tight. It drops down and through, and then there she goes. Comes right up into here. So these are our two lines. So this is our breather line and our return line. And again, we have capped off right there. We've capped off that line that went to the J-tube. So we are eliminating any of that oil heading back into the intake, which is awesome. So now I'm just gonna fire it up, make sure we don't have any leaks. And at this point, I think we're good to go. I need to clean this thing too. There's more sand in here than I imagined. Everything looks good. Right down in here, you can see kind of the bottom screw and that little shiny portion right there, through that hole. There's no oil leaking anywhere, so everything seems to be sealed and good to go. There's our return line. So I think it's all set. All right, so I hope that helps explain the process of installing it. I know it's a little bit difficult to see in a few places. One thing I want to share with you is during the course of me editing and putting this video together, I've actually taken my car to Glamis for 2 trips, 2 very busy weekends, putting a lot of time on the car and a lot of high-powered, high-throttle stuff. And when I got back, I was shocked to see that my oil level really did not move at all. Before, from just 1 trip out to hardpack, I was losing quite a bit. I was putting in over 1/4 of a quart of oil to try to get that level back up. And if you're gonna burn oil, the dunes, the sand is the place you're gonna do it. That's when you're really pushing the power of the car really hard. So I was really excited to see that that was a non-issue. All right, guys, so that's pretty much gonna wrap up our video installation of the TPR breather system. I'm gonna put a link below into the description of going to TPR's website to be able to purchase this. It is an awesome addition. If you have a turbo Polaris car, you should highly consider this. It goes a long way for giving you, again, that peace of mind, and also make sure that you're not gonna have any issues with low oil. I hope this helps you out. I hope it's something that can make your car run a lot better and have more reliability like my car. And if you have any questions or comments, don't forget to do that right down below. And if you found the video helpful, please like and subscribe.